Ukraine-Russia War, May 20th, 2025. A Russian tank trying to advance in open terrain was targeted by Ukrainian FPV drones. Ukrainian soldiers immediately directed their FPVs towards the tank and launched an attack to stop it. The tank lost its direction after the first two successful hits. Its movements became erratic. The Russian assault unit on it was neutralized, and the panicked crew dragged the armored giant into the forest. But this was no salvation for them. This Russian tank, which had been dragged into the forest, was shaken by a series of kamikaze drone attacks. Ukrainian precision strike FPV drones quickly located the tank and launched the finishing blows. And here, Ukrainian drones destroyed another Russian tank, proving once again their offensive power in the field. In this military incident in the Ukraine-Russia conflict, as you can see, the motorcycles of Russian soldiers are destroyed with mines previously planted in the region. But the operation does not end there. Ukrainian reconnaissance drones detect several Russian armored vehicles in the region and prepare to attack. The enemy armored vehicles are destroyed with sharp-hitting FPVs, and Ukrainian soldiers win another victory. Ukraine-Russia conflict, Toretsk front. First Russian soldier trying to hide in a car is neutralized. Then another enemy soldier trying to advance on a motorcycle in the region is stopped. And in the same region, a few Russian assault unit soldiers' attempt to hide in ruined houses is detected by a reconnaissance drone, and an attack is carried out. The enemy Russian soldiers are neutralized. Then a few more Russian soldiers are detected in a forest area close to the region. As you can see in this military conflict, FPV drones instantly detect and neutralize Russian soldiers trying to hide. A few Russian soldiers in the forest area try to get rid of the FPVs, but it is of no use. And as you can see, the operation does not end there. Enemy soldiers and their ammunition hiding in underground shelters in the same area are also neutralized with sharp-hit FPVs. And now, as you can see, thanks to the thermal imaging feature of the FPVs, a few Russian soldiers are once again targeted by FPV drones and neutralized one by one. This carefully planned operation in the Toretsk region of Ukraine destroyed the enemy both psychologically and physically. And so, north of Toretsk, another Russian unit was stopped by the strategic and tactical strikes of the Ukrainian defense. Ukrainian AASM units neutralized a critical target in the village of Tyotkino in the Kursk region. This military operation targeted a structure actively used by Russian UAV operators. Inside the building were not only operators, but also a large amount of ammunition and communication equipment, all of which were neutralized. Don't forget to like the video and write "Long Live Ukraine" in the comments. By subscribing to our channel, you can be the first to know about my latest videos. The legendary 414th Unit of Ukraine, the Magyar Birds, is on the scene again. This time the target, two Russian main battle tanks. The location, one of the hot spots of the front line. Using Ukrainian FPV drones, these armored vehicles belonging to Russian enemy units were destroyed with sudden and sharp strikes. As you can see, after the first hit, a few more hits are made. The aim here is to both destroy the enemy armored vehicle and make it completely unusable. And even if the other tank tries to escape in the open field, it is of no use. The unit activated FPV unmanned aerial vehicles. The drones, advancing silently, cornered the tanks in the open field. The first drone aimed directly at a tank and hit its target with millimeter precision. The first tank was destroyed, then the other tank was turned into the target of Ukrainian precision strike drones and was eventually destroyed. In this military incident in the Ukraine-Russia conflict, Ukrainian soldiers struck a blow to Russian troops, demonstrating the power of FPVs in the field and also gaining strategic advantage by weakening the enemy's psychology. Ukrainian soldiers are stopping enemy soldiers with BMP-2 this time. As you can see, many Russian soldiers are on the move, and they are completely unaware of what awaits them. And in the meantime, Ukrainian armored vehicles are waiting, locked on the target. Russian troops trying to attack with a sharp intervention from Ukraine's 54th Brigade are neutralized. Ukrainian tanks are raking the area with successive strikes and not giving enemy soldiers any chance. And as you can see, the attacks have begun. Ukrainian BMP-2 armored vehicles are continuously hitting Russian soldiers. Enemy soldiers were confused about what to do. Although they tried to hide in the forest, it was not possible to escape from the armored attacks. This incident shows that Ukrainian soldiers are very good at FPV drone attacks and reconnaissance, but they are not, and proves that they are strong in using armored vehicles and neutralizing the enemy with such heavy vehicles. Russian assault unit soldiers tried to advance towards Toretsk with Lovs, Niva, and UAZ-type vehicles this time. However, as soon as Ukrainian FPVs noticed the enemy, they started to stop the enemy vehicles one by one with sudden strikes. Russian assault unit soldiers, whose vehicles were hit by FPVs, immediately got out of the vehicle and tried to escape. And as you can see, the other vehicle next to them became the target of Ukrainian drones and was destroyed by Ukrainian sharp strikes. And after this vehicle was also neutralized by Ukrainian FPV drones, the others quickly moved towards the ruined houses in Toretsk and tried to escape the attacks. But Ukrainian reconnaissance drones stopped the enemy vehicles. They continue their attacks step by step. One of the Russian soldiers' vehicles is quickly looking for a place to hide in the ruins, and after stopping the vehicle, the soldiers inside immediately get out of the vehicle and run towards the ruined houses. Their aim is to get rid of the Ukrainian FPVs, but the reconnaissance drones detect the movement of enemy soldiers, and in this military incident. The Azov drone team of the 12th Special Forces Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces immediately targets the ruined houses and continuously organizes attacks, destroying the houses and neutralizing the Russian assault unit soldiers inside them. As you can see, the Azov operators continue to monitor enemy movement by flying the drones over the roofs of the houses. Each target was marked one by one, and the attack was launched. The FPVs, which advanced into the ruined structures, hit the target with sharp turns. In this military incident in the direction of Toretsk, Ukrainian FPVs once again showed how effective they are. Azov's drone operators did not just stop the enemy, they also completely gained psychological superiority. The Russian Army's motorcycle attack attempt near Volnoy Pole and Novoselka was stopped by soldiers of Ukraine's 31st Separate Mechanized Brigade and 3rd Mechanized Battalion. Enemy soldiers and motorcycles were neutralized. As you can see, there is still enemy movement in the region, which are Russian BMP and tank groups. After the motorcycles are stopped, FPVs immediately reconnoiter the terrain and launch attacks on the enemy's armored vehicles. With the stopping of the tanks and sudden attacks on armored vehicles, other enemy vehicles try to escape the drone attack by maneuvering quickly on the terrain. Some of them stop the vehicle, and the Russian soldiers inside immediately leave the vehicle and try to escape. However, none of these can save the Russian soldiers and their vehicles from the Ukrainian precision attacks. Ukrainian reconnaissance drones started attacks against Russian Army armored vehicles after detecting the ruined houses and vehicles in open areas in the region. In this conflict in the Ukraine-Russia war, Russian army tanks and armored personnel carriers that attempted to attack the front lines of Ukraine's 72nd Mechanized Brigade were destroyed by Ukrainian FPVs, unable to escape. A total of 4 APCs, 2 tanks, and 2 support vehicles. All were targeted, destroyed, and rendered unusable. At the same time, a Russian infantry group of approximately 20 people was stopped in this major military incident. In this operation, the FPV's reconnaissance strike, the near real-time operation of the loop, brought Ukrainian soldiers success in the field. FPV operators tracked the enemy's step-by-step movements with thermal and optical images, preventing the enemy from taking a chance. Drones from the 63rd Mechanized Brigade are hunting down the enemy's underground shelters one by one. As you can see, this entire operation was mainly carried out using FPVs, and this was enough to destroy all the shelters. These places, which are frequently used by Russian infantry, were destroyed, and the ammunition hidden by the enemy was rendered useless. And in most of these operations, after the first hit, a second drone controls and checks that the operation was successful. The first drone dives into the mouth of the tunnel with a perfect hit. The entrance section collapses in an instant. The second drone that comes after it completely destroys the tunnel. In just a few seconds, both the enemy elements and the ammunition inside are neutralized. With this operation, Ukrainian drones are once again showing everyone the importance of not only reconnaissance, but also in Ukrainian precision strike attacks. These high-precision attacks, especially on underground shelters, are also thwarting the tactical plans of the Russian army. The FPV operators of the Magyar Birds team stepped in, and the drone locked onto the target at low altitude and destroyed the Russian tank with a direct hit. In this incident you will watch in the Ukraine-Russia conflict, the FPV operators of the Ukrainian Omega Wings detachment detect the underground shelters of the Russian soldiers. Ukrainian soldiers destroy these shelters by organizing sudden drone attacks where the enemy's equipment is hidden. A major military operation by the 77th Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, namely that the brigade completely neutralized enemy tanks on the front with a very powerful drone attack. The target was 5 armored vehicles belonging to Russia. These were BMP, APC, MTLB, T-72, and T-62 tanks. All of them were on the same line moving, but what they did not count on was the attacks from the sky by FPV drones. The first hit was on the T-72 and T-62. Ukrainian FPVs destroyed these armored vehicles with their sharp hits. Then the drones, which targeted other enemy armored vehicles, waited for the right moment and made them unusable with a precise strike. This attack destroyed not only the armors, but also the enemy's morale and logistic balance. In this military incident, a group of Russian soldiers on motorcycles tried to attack the positions of the 77th Air Assault Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. However, some were neutralized with mines and others with Ukrainian FPVs. As you can see, the Ukrainian FPV is moving towards the inside of a blown-up building and reconnoitering. The aim was to destroy any enemy equipment or vehicles here and not give the enemy a chance. And while Ukraine's special FPV team is searching inside with the Signum drone, it notices something that seems to be hidden and moves towards it to try to determine what it is. Then the FPV attack drone is activated, and in this operation, a Russian T-80BVM tank is destroyed with a sudden hit. Operations in eastern Ukraine and Luhansk Oblast are on the rise again. This time the target is the enemy settlement in the strategic Nadia Bay, which is still under Russian control. This operation, which has begun in the Ukraine crisis, was launched with a raid planned millimeter by millimeter. Ukrainian precision strike first attack intensive MLRS strikes began, which virtually destroyed enemy positions and reduced them to ruins. Multi-barreled rocket launcher systems achieved millimeter hits on the coordinates of the Russian defense line. Then Ukrainian tanks entered the scene. The trenches, concrete bunkers, and armored support points that were detected were destroyed by heavy caliber tank attacks. There was a striking detail right behind this line that was broken with artillery support. The infantry units of the 3rd Assault Brigade quickly approached the front line with American-made M113 armored personnel carriers. As the M113s approached the area, Ukrainian fighters quickly got out of the vehicles and took up positions. Each one began to advance towards the strategic points of the village along predetermined infiltration routes and took up the right positions. In this military incident that started with sharp strikes, the Ukrainian infantry focused on the target in a coordinated manner. The goal was clear: to completely clear Nadia from enemy Russian soldiers. This operation is of great importance because Nadia Bay is on a logistically important transit line. Taking it means taking control of not only a village, but also the connecting roads around it. And for this, the Ukrainian soldiers are attacking the enemy with all their might. The Russian army is facing a serious challenge at this point. The underground shelters of the enemy Russian soldiers are being destroyed by the sharp drone attack of Ukraine. After making successive attacks on the shelters, Ukraine's FPVs then head towards the area where the ruined houses are located and neutralize the enemy soldiers hiding there. And the enemy equipment is completely rendered unusable with the destruction of the ruins. In the second tactical attack of this operation, this time the target was the Russian assault unit soldiers trying to escape in the open area. The drones locked onto the target, determined their location, and neutralized the enemy soldiers with a sudden attack. And finally, Ukrainian reconnaissance drones detected new movement in the forest. The Russian assault units were moving rapidly towards the shelters in the forest area. However, the FPV drones immediately headed to these new coordinates, and the enemy was stopped. Three enemy vehicles approaching the front line in the Limansk direction were immediately noticed by the Ukrainian armed forces. The movement was caught by the 63rd Brigade's surveillance systems. Coordinates were received immediately, and FPV operators took action. Ukraine FPV drones that went to the field locked onto the target, and all three Russian vehicles were hit with full accuracy and destroyed. In this incident in the Ukraine-Russia conflict, the Orion Unmanned Systems Battalion of the 128th Brigade of Ukraine detected enemy movement in the region. The enemy's equipment density was high, but the FPVs were accurate in sharp hits on the target. The operators launched the drones. The FPV systems detected the enemy vehicles one by one and launched attacks, destroying the vehicles belonging to the Russian army. This operation in Mirny once again demonstrated the superiority of the Ukrainian FPVs in the field. In this operation, where FPV drones dealt major blows to enemy vehicles, the movement of Russian army vehicles was stopped with successive attacks. Ukraine, with these attacks, it dealt a blow not only to the enemy's vehicles, but also to their morale.